Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Italy, a place to love YouTube channel. Now, as usual, on Monday I'm making a video where I'm reading an article in Italian language. But so from today I decided to start exploring one website that is very interesting. It's called I Borghi Più Belli d'Italia. So, the most beautiful villages of Italy, region by region. And so what I'm gonna do from today is to select a region. In this case, I decided to start from Basilicata region. Then in Basilicata, according to this website, the most beautiful villages of Italy, we have an amount of selected towns here. For example, we can see here Acerenza, Castelmezzano, Guardia Perticara, Irsina, Maratea, Miglionico, and so on. And so I will select one town and I will read interesting information about this town that I'm going to select. Okay, so let's start from today. We start from this town in alphabetical order called Acerenza. So, Acerenza, we are in Basilicata region, and so let's start and let's explore this beautiful town. So, we are talking about small villages. We are not talking about the life in a big city and so on, because it's about to attract people to visit these beautiful small towns, small villages in Italy. Ok, so we start from Basilicata region, comune di Acerenza, altitudine, altitudine is the height, so we are 883 meters above the sea level, which is quite high, let me say, 833. And then we are talking about a village of 3009 inhabitants, so it's not really a big town. So let's start reading and investigating in Italian about this beautiful town. So as you can see here, for example, there are some pictures. I will actually recommend you to visit this website, iborghipiubelliditalia.it. Ok, let's start from reading here about divertimenti. So, things to enjoy to do when you are in Acerenza. Now, let me select here. This is the part that I'm gonna read in Italian. Allora, what to do? Divertimenti. Pesca sportiva e canoa sul fiume Bradano, trekking, cicloturismo e turismo equestre. So here I can translate. Generally, I don't want to translate because I want you to become familiar with the Italian language, but pesca is about fishing, so it's a very attractive activity. Then kayaking, for example, on the river Fiume, in Italian is river, called Bradano, there's one main river. Then trekking, cicloturismo, so if you love cycling, and also if you love riding horses, because there is also this type of tourism here. Now, Acerenze, sede della comunità montana Alto Bradano, è inserita nel parco regionale del Vulture, che sarà presto istituito per preservare le caratteristiche ambientali e di biodiversità di questo territorio. Capofila della rete interregionale del Borgo Albergo, ha avviato la riqualificazione del suo centro storico. Acerenza dedica infine attenzione agli eventi culturali, come l'agosto acheruntino e la rievocazione teatrale della storia della cattedrale. Okay, so here is giving you can translate yourself. I mean, here it's becoming familiar with the Italian language and with the sound of the Italian. So anyway, it's in a regional park. This park is called the Vulture, which is actually not far from here, from where I am. It's a beautiful volcano that is not active anymore, with 2 lakes on top, and so it's well worth to visit. Okay, then let me see what is the typical food, for example, of this town. Because in Italy, each town has its own typical dish. So, let's read. Tra i primi piatti della cucina tradizionale spiccano i macaroon ad est. Now, with the dialect, I'm not very familiar. I will try to read anyway, because as you can see here, macaroon ad est. So, I might guess that anyway, desht is finger, dito, and they say in dialect, desht. Then, pasta fatta a mano, ok, exactly, handmade pasta, è condita con sugo di carne o abbinata a legumi. È i zezzerid, pasta di piccolo formato con fagioli o lenticchie. Mentre la laganà chiapput è un dolce preparato con lagane, pasta lavorata a mano utilizzando farina di grano duro, speziato con cannella, noci, mandorle e insaporito alla fine con vino cotto. Okay, let me see if there are a few interesting words for you, for example, to become familiar. Now, in Italian, piatti means dishes. So, let me say i piatti tipici, the typical dishes, or the main course dish. For example, in Italian we say i primi piatti. Primi piatti, primo in Italian is first, and piatto means dish. Cucina. La cucina is the cuisine, but in Italian we also call the kitchen cucina. So if you are in a property and you see the kitchen, you can easily say la cucina. Poi, for example, here mano. Mano is hand, ok, in Italian. Carne. Carne is meat, ok. Dolce. Dolce is something sweet or a dessert. You can be used for both in Italian. If you're looking for a dessert, you can say I would like some dolci, vorrei qualcosa di dolce, un dolce, or sweet. For example, you may enter in a bar and they ask you, you gonna ask for a coffee, and you say, I like sweet coffee, caffè dolce. And then, let me see, for example, now a few words. Noci is walnuts, mandorle in Italian is almonds, and then vino, another word, another interesting word that we can find, but most of you probably know. Wine is translated with vino. Now, we have this typical in the south of Italy, vino cotto, but it's a bit misleading because we might think it's made with grapes, which while vino cotto is made with figs, the figs. Okay, and it's a kind of creamy that you can put, it's a kind of cream made with these figs that you can add on top of some dessert, on top of some sweets, on top of the dolci. Now, il prodotto del borgo, the typical product of the village. Let me select here to make it a bit more readable. Ad Acerenza non si può fare a meno di gustare un bicchiere di aglianico. Now, aglianico is the typical wine made here in Basilicata, and I would highly recommend you to buy a bottle wherever you are. If you are in the States, if you are in UK, in Germany, and you find this wine, call it aglianico, I would actually highly recommend you to buy one of these bottles. Now, è un vino di colore rosso rubino, tendente al granato e dal profumo delicato di frutti di bosco, con note di vaniglia e legno. se è raffinato in barrique, oppure di cuoio e catrame se molto invecchiato. Ma il territorio regala anche la tipica salsiccia e soppressata a cheruntina. La spezzettatura della carne avviene ancora a punta di coltello. Il pane di semola rimacinata di grano duro è un ottimo olio extravergine d'oliva. Okay, let me see which are the most interesting words, for example, um, in this article. So, let's say bicchiere. Bicchiere in Italian is glass. So, if you're asking for a glass of wine, you might say bicchiere di vino. Oppure un bicchiere di acqua, glass of water, bicchiere di acqua. Poi vino, we already said wine, but it's never bad to repeat. Colore, you can guess, color. Then rosso, rosso in Italian is red. Then, for example, another easy word for you to memorize, for example, profumo, parfum, perfume, frutti, fruits, i frutti, fruits. Then let me see which other words. Molto. For example, molto is an adjective, and you may say a lot. Mi piace tanto, mi piace molto. I like it at all, I like it a lot. And then, for example, salsiccia here. If you read salsiccia, if you are looking for salsiccia, means you're looking for sausages in Italian. Typical sausages you might find in any town here you visit in Italy. You might find its own typical sausages. Then carne. Carne in Italian means meat. Then coltello. Coltello is knife. So posso avere un coltello. You are going to the restaurant, you need a knife, and you say posso avere un coltello? Can I have a knife? Then pane. Pane is another very important word because it's bread. Then grano. Grano in Italian we call it wheat. The wheat is called grano. Duro, hard. So if anyway, duro means hard. And then olio, oil, extravergine, extra virgin, oliva, olive. So these are few words about the Italian language that I found interesting for you to translate. And now, to end this video about Acerenza, again, I will highly recommend you, if you want to know more about this town, to go on I borghi più belli d'Italia, which I will put the link into the description. But then I also want to go on Google Maps to show you from here a bit of a street view. So let me zoom out a bit. So here we are, anyway, in the hills. Anyway, as I said, it's quite high in altitude. Then we have Acerenza Lake, so probably that's where people like fishing. Also trekking, cycling, horse riding, and kayaking, this type of activity that is possible to do in Acerenza. But now let's zoom in and let's investigate a bit about the main square, the cathedral square of Acerenza. As you see, this is the old part of Acerenza, typical small village made of very narrow roads, so very characteristic houses. Obviously, as most of these towns in the south of Italy, it's always losing a bit of population, but with hope, these towns are gonna see a new renaissance. That's what I hope for the south of Italy. And so let's go on the main church here. and let's discover a bit where we can travel here in Acerenza. Okay, so here we are in Acerenza. We can see, for example, straight away the narrow roads of this town. Then here there are some activities, some shops. Anyway, this is the typical atmosphere you may live when you are in these towns in Basilicata, and not only Calabria, Sicily. They're all quite similar, these towns. So, for example, we have a jeweler here. A jeweler in each town in Italy is not missing simply because Italians love to buy jewelry. So then, for example, we can foresee a little square here with an olive tree. In many towns, for example, in Basilicata, because the olive tree is the icon of this land, so you may find, for example, olive trees a bit everywhere, even in the town itself. So here we have il Duomo. Now, in Italian, we say Duomo, but anyway, this is the Cathedral of Acerenza. As we can see, I mean, it's a particular church. Churches will find in every town will find historical and old churches like cathedrals. For example, this kind of stone that we can see here on the tower, it's quite common, for example, to find these typical, they look like Roman bassorilievi. So these are kind of sculptures. Then, for example, we can find the stem, the emblem of the rich family who controlled the city back in the days. So we have this typical tower here of the church, which it makes, anyway, the church asymmetric. Generally, the churches are always symmetric, but as we can see here, the right part is different from the left part of the church. It's interesting, full of symbols, full of icons. So let's try a bit. Let me see, because now the problem is, for example, that the streets are very narrow, and sometimes not even Google Street View is able, for example, to go and take pictures, for example, of these streets. Anyway, let's have a look around of the typical houses here. Now, I don't know how old these pictures from Google Street View were taken. For example, we can see kind of properties that it looks like nobody's living. Probably these properties are even for sale. Anyway, there's no really a big market at the moment, but never know in the future, for example. Anyway, we are in the historical part. For example, yeah, here we can see again the main church. So let me see if I can move back here. Okay, so we see these typical houses a bit everywhere. So we are moving back to the square here. All right. We see anyway. Let's walk this way now. Let's walk the left part of the church. It's kind of interesting. We can see kind of is a summery season because anyway, people are wearing shirts and shorts. We can see very old houses. We might even see, for example, vases with flowers just hanging on the walls. Some houses, for example, here we have a pizzeria, a restaurant, probably in this narrow road. So food is a main thing here, for example, anyway, if you love Italian food. Here it looks like we are in one of the main roads, for example, of the town. Again, we are in the old part of the town. Obviously, during the years had been built the new part, like in every town, in every old town. Here you might find the old part of the town and the newest. So let me see around. These are the typical houses that you can find in any of these little villages in Basilicata region, and not only. This could be similar to Molise, to Abruzzo, to Calabria, to Sicily. A bit less to Puglia, for example, because Puglia has a different territory. It's more flat than apart the northern part of Puglia, but anyway. So here we are again in these narrow roads. For example, we can see the face here, this kind of sculpture. These are typical sculptures that they were put, for example, when they were building the house, maybe representing the face. It could even be it could be possible that this is kind of face similar to the person who built that house, who was the owner. For example, was a common thing. Here we are seeing the other part, the side of the church, of the cathedral. We can see that it's quite big, so it proves that had been an important location back in the days. Obviously, more important than it is now, for example. But these places slowly, slowly are going back to life. So there is something that will bring people back, according to me. Maybe according to most people, to most of the people here in the south of Italy, they say no, but according to me, there is a potential. Something will bring back people here in the coming years. And then, all right, let me see, because here we have a kind of belvedere. Okay, here we are in the rear part of the cathedral, which again, I can say is quite massive. To be such a small town of 3,000 inhabitants, to have such a big cathedral. Anyway, particular, full of details. If you love history, this could be anyway a place to visit for sure. And for example, here, because we are quite high in altitude, we are talking about more than 800 meters high above the sea level, you have views. Let me see. For example, here, I want to see the view from the Belvedere, if it's giving me the chance. So this is one of the typical views that you can have from Acerenza when you're here. So if you love landscapes, if you love nature, again, this could be the right place where to move. For example, okay, again, properties here are probably also very cheap, again, because the people, a lot of people left, and still some young people are leaving. They think there's not much to do. I cannot disagree a lot with this, because anyway, young people would like to have more opportunities for this reason, for example. But I always say that it's also possible to create the opportunities. Okay, my friends, with these views of Acerenza from this Belvedere, from the lateral side, for example, here we have a fountain. It's very common to have water, access to water in every town in Italy. You might have a tap and you can simply drink water. This is drinkable water. Everywhere you can find in any town in Italy, water always being had free access for the people in the towns. Okay, so from this image of the Acerenza Cathedral, my friends, I wish you a lovely day, and I'll see you here on Italy A Place to Love YouTube channel tomorrow with my Tuesday video. Bye!